So let's talk a little bit more about how plants can be used to feed our spirit and to help us not just personally, but in society. So one thing that plants can do, and these have been proven by studies, is they can improve your concentration and memory by up to 20%. So concentration and memory can be improved by about 20%. So if you have a room where you study and maybe you do have a hard time with concentration, try putting some plants around you. Try going outside and studying in nature. Try to look at nature for 3 to 5 minutes and then study and see if it can actually improve your memory so you can get a little more bang for your buck of your time. Another thing that plants do for us is they encourage us to do recreation, they encourage us to do physical activity, which is really good for our health. So for us personally and as a society, we want a society that's as healthy as possible, that people are getting out and moving, and it's good for their cardiovascular system, that they're breathing fresh air, that they're getting that sunshine that's so important for your health. That vitamin D is just so important for your health. So plants encourage us to do physical activity and recreation. Where you don't have a lot of plants, in a neighborhood where you don't have a park, people are just not going to get out and want to do very much. Or if they don't have a place that has lots of trees and lots of grass, even if they have a park but it's mostly just concrete and maybe some jungle gyms, but just concrete and metal, they're not really going to be encouraged to get out as much. So recreation, physical activity. Plants also increase our compassion and our empathy. So where's a couple places you can think of that really probably need increased compassion and empathy, but don't have many plants? Well, I always think about schools. Schools tend to have plants where the parents come in right there in the beginning to go to the office, but not really as many in the classroom, or not really lots and lots of plants around the kids. So that's where school gardens can really come in and be important, is to get kids out gardening in the sunshine, in the bacteria vaccae, around plants that gives them a sense of compassion and empathy for others. Another place I can think of is prisons don't have a lot of plants, and that may be where prison gardens can really play a big role. But plants do tend to fill people with more compassion and empathy, which helps relationships. Perceived quality of life. So imagine a neighborhood, and imagine a neighborhood just beside it that the houses, the homes are exactly the same. The only difference is one neighborhood just has concrete sidewalks to the road, and that's about it. And the other one is lined with trees. They have shrubs. There's some flower beds in front of the houses. So, those types of things, people tend to perceive that they have a higher quality of life when they're surrounded by plants, when they're surrounded by trees and flowers. Even if they're living the exact same standard of living that someone else is. If that other person doesn't have trees in their yard, or trees lining the road, or some grass, or some flower beds, they tend to have a perception that they're not living as high a standard of life. That's also really, really important when you are, say, selling a house. Houses that have good landscaping tend to sell for about 14% more, which can be quite, that can really add up. So perception is from a buyer, from the person who lives there. We all want to perceive that we have our best quality of life. So go out and plant something that will boost your physical activity. It'll boost your perception of your quality of life. It'll encourage you to get out and get more physically active, all those things, and increase your concentration and memory. All right, so plants do reduce crime. Plants in society reduce crime. How in the heck? Okay, well, there is a theory called the broken windows theory. And that basically is a theory that says that rundown places actually encourage crime. Rundown places do not encourage people to want to be there. So people tend to stay away. Where people tend to stay away, criminals tend to congregate. So it basically says if you start with a broken window that kind of makes people, this really isn't the neighborhood to be in. You end up with vacant lots and you end up with crime. So plants, because people have a higher perceived quality of life, they want to be there, they want to be home, they have more compassion and empathy for their neighbors, so you have better relationships with your neighbors, and people get out and do recreation and do physical activity in their neighborhoods, so they get to know each other, they're out and about, they're there and active and vibrant and lively, which actually does reduce crime. So look up broken windows theory. I want you to do a little bit of Googling on broken windows theory and read about it and get familiar with it on your own. It's pretty interesting. So also, believe it or not, plants are used to prevent safety accidents, traffic accidents. So city planners actually understand this and will use, when they're planting shrubs and flowers in those middle of those roundabouts that they're so crazy about now, or in a median, they're not just doing it to say, look how pretty our town is. They're actually doing it because it slows drivers down and makes drivers more aware. So drivers are much less likely to be running into the median, or just much less likely to be careless. So it just has been proven that plants and flowers tend to wake people up, make people pay attention, slow people down, and cause less traffic accidents in intersections. So that's pretty neat too. I've got a couple of pictures on your slideshow of an intersection with no plants and an intersection with plants. So you can see that not only does it look better, but it actually does have an effect on the driver. I want you to think about all these things we've talked about in both of these lectures and in your PDF, and just start thinking about how plants have played a role in your life and in your neighborhood and in your society, and tell me about it. All right, see you next time.